We have one of the most well-known and successful people in the history of journalism, the writer of several best-selling books, of Washington Post fame, of Watergate fame, Bob Woodward. Bob, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. How are you, Fred?
I'm doing well. It's hard to believe we go back, 35 years
yeah,
or so?
I think we were, I was covering and you were working in the Coolidge administration, wasn't it?
I was 12 and you were 11, I think, at the time.
It goes back to Watergate and Nixon.
I'm a little bit resentful you have kept, looks like, all of your hair, but other than that, I'm still following you very, very closely, and I want to get right into this very important story that you recently broke concerning the request of our leader in Afghanistan, General McChrystal, of additional troops and the ominous warnings that he had in that recommendation. As to what would happen if we did not get additional troops there. Bob, let me just ask you kind of an open-ended question, and that is, what do you think the significance of this is? It seems like that it's brought many things to a head from where we go from here, military versus civilian, conflict perhaps within the administration. What's the significance of the story?
Well, it's a piece of the puzzle, and maybe a significant piece of the puzzle, because it was known he had sent in an assessment, but it was classified. And it turns out I was able to get it and read it, and it's not just that he says things are serious. He says he needs more troops in a year, or there is likely failure. Now, as best I can tell, I was talking to some people who've been defense secretary recently, and they said they cannot recall any instance of a general essentially saying, I've got to have these troops or we fail. So McChrystal is laying down a very strong marker. I think the significance is this. McChrystal, as you may recall, they fired General McKiernan, the predecessor, and this was the guy.
This is Obama's guy.
This is his guy. That Gates picked him. Admiral Mullen, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, was instrumental in getting this job for McChrystal. So he supposedly has total support. In March, there was a strategy laid out, namely counterinsurgency, and Obama's, unflinching declaration recently that this is a war of necessity. But to, if I may say, the president's credit, he is looking at the whole picture because the circumstances have changed very significantly on the ground. As the confidential report shows, the Taliban is doing better and better. The August 20th election has really not been settled, so it's not clear whether there's going to be a legitimate government there. And a factor that people kind of have not focused on, in Pakistan, the army there, the Pakistani army, has had some real impressive successes against the Taliban in these ungovernable areas of Pakistan. So given that radical a change, it's reasonable to look at everything from the bottom up. At the same time, I think you got to do it fast. I've been to Afghanistan. You, when you were in the Senate, you used to make these trips, and
I've been there.
And it's a very humbling experience.
Very depressing experience.
Yeah, and you realize that we have these kids out there in the desert where it's 116 degrees. Have we given them everything they need? The proper strategy, the proper backup, the proper support from the president and the Congress and the public? And the answer in this case is it's up in the air. It's in flux. And imagine if you and I were, Private First Class Woodward and Captain Fred Thompson sitting out there, and we're saying, hey, what are we supposed to be doing? Who's supporting us? Where does all this go? You got to decide.
And now we read stories like today where our new strategy of trying to protect the Afghanis are actually costing us U.S. soldiers' lives. So it just adds to the complexity. Let me ask you this, Bob. Let's assume for a minute that those changes have taken place so dramatically from March 27, when the president laid down his new strategy and said at that time that it was at the conclusion of a careful policy review. Does the military support what McChrystal is doing, and does the military think that they can win under any circumstances? Well,
first of all, the military, as we know, is not monolithic.
Sure.
They're people who have different attitudes, but the key people in the military, General Petraeus, who is the central commander who oversees both the war in Afghanistan and Iraq, and Admiral Mullen, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, have made it clear they support McChrystal. It's unclear where Secretary Gates is, where the president is, where General Jones, the national security advisor, is, where some of the other people.
But the people in the field, or closest to the field,
right,
seem to support him. Let me ask you this:
They do, but there's a real. I'm deep into the woods on this, Fred, and there is an argument that we don't need to transform Afghanistan. That we're going to get into nation building. We're already into it. The goal here is to keep Al Qaeda from attacking the United States, and there may be another level, actually a lower level of troops that we could have in Afghanistan, and indeed prevent the Taliban from taking over and Al Qaeda moving.
Don't you guess, or maybe you have more than a guess, that that's where the president is going to come out, split the difference on this between what McChrystal is asking for and nothing?
That often happens. A lot of people are going to argue that's the problem we had in Vietnam. That's the problem we had in Iraq for a long time.
Incrementalism.
Yes, that it's the problem of the invasion of Iraq. It's pretty much agreed, at least by lots of people who know a lot about it, that we didn't have enough force there to really stabilize the country early on.
Let me ask you this. The media now seems to be playing this the last 24 hours as a big Biden victory, that his thoughts and his opinions on these things now are taking precedence, say, over Secretary of State Clinton, for example. Do you hear any of those rumblings?
Well, yes. I mean, Biden has been an advocate for less force, and that we do a counterinsurgency strategy, but make sure that we hold Afghanistan and that we keep Al Qaeda out. And there is an argument that you can do that with less force. You will not be in a classic counterinsurgency war where you are sending troops out to protect the population, to nation build.
Bob, let me ask you this. And this is as much of a historian. You're not that old, but as a person who's seen a lot of history in this town, can you argue with the case that would go like this, that never before have we ever had a situation with this kind of public opinion where it is today on this issue, with this kind of withering of support already in the United States Congress, where we saw it through, and that it's just a matter of time?
Well, but see, that could be a real long time. As you know, in Vietnam, in the Johnson years and the Nixon years, the public and the Congress turned against the war, and the president
wasn't for a while. It seems to me like this is. You remember better than I do. It seems to me like this is quicker on us, and the president's own party is quicker than back in those days.
Well, that may be true, but the context is the Iraq War, where there was so much opposition. It seems to have stabilized. I emphasize seemed. But here, if I could just offer a stray thought, as a journalist, the issue for me, I'm working on a book on Obama. When I got this report, I read it, and I realized this will be overtaken by events when my book comes out next year. This is exactly what the public needs to know. That document, when we published it with very minor redactions, reasonably and civilly requested by the Pentagon.
Read that.
It's 3 weeks old. The Pentagon Papers came out, as I say, 8 years too late. We need to know these things now, so the debate can. And you said at the beginning, does this bring something like this to a head? Maybe it does, and I think whatever side you might be on, that's exactly what we need. You can't let this delay. This is not a health care debate, with all due respect to it. This is about people's lives.
Well, it's funny, priorities, because I think you're absolutely right. Bob Woodward, another huge story.